Welcome to another deep dive, listeners. This time we're taking a deep dive into the fascinating world of esotericism. Uh, you know, secret wisdom, hidden meanings, that sort of thing. And we've got a bunch of Alice Bailey books to guide us.
Oh yeah, like Education in the New Age and a treatise on the seven rays.
Right. And even glamour, a world problem.
Sounds like we're about to crack open a secret vault of hidden knowledge. We're going to be deciphering the universe.
The universe, huh? So esotericism, it's more than just good vibes then.
Way more. It's about energies, like a cosmic power grid powering everything, every thought, every feeling, every object. You, me, even this microphone.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get the picture. But energy is energy, right? It's all the same stuff.
Not exactly. Think of it like electricity. You can power a light bulb with it.
Or a supercomputer, right?
Right, same electricity, different result.
It all comes down to how you use it, the intention behind it. Some of these books even talk about white and black lodges, groups of these like super skilled esotericists.
Using that energy for good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, same energy, totally different goals.
So even in this invisible world, it's still about how we use our power. But how do we even know what energies we're dealing with?
Well, it starts with self-awareness, right?
Right.
Esotericism basically sees us as walking energy systems, constantly transmitting and receiving all these invisible forces, like antennas picking up signals.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying, like, if I'm talking to you, our energies are actually like bumping into each other.
Exactly. We're constantly influencing each other energetically, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, whoa. So like that feeling of being totally drained after talking to a certain someone, that's energy.
Could be. Or feeling super energized after a walk in the woods. That's energy too.
Makes you wonder about all the energy we're swimming in every single day.
It's a lot. That's why esotericism is all about understanding these forces.
Yeah, but with all this energy flying around, how do we even know who we are? How do we separate our own energy from, like, all the background noise?
That is the journey, right? Becoming aware of all the forces that shape us.
Like tuning into our own personal frequency amidst all the static.
Yeah, exactly. It's about becoming sensitive to the subtle energies of our soul, like finding that quiet inner voice amidst all the chatter.
It's like we need to develop a whole new set of senses. Speaking of which, I keep seeing this term etheric body pop up.
Oh, yeah. That's a big
It's
one.
not just like a new agey buzzword.
Oh, no. It's actually a key concept. Think of it like the bridge between your physical self and your soul. The tangible and the intangible.
Okay, a bridge. But what exactly is a bridging?
Well, every experience you have, the sights, the sounds, the smells, even your thoughts and feelings, they all get filtered through your etheric body before they reach your conscious mind.
So it's like the CPU of our energy system,
Yeah,
processing everything that comes in.
exactly. And what's really interesting is, for most people, their etheric body is mainly transmitting the forces of their personality, their ego.
But what about those who are on that spiritual path? What happens then?
Well, for them, the etheric body starts transmitting soul energy instead.
So it's like upgrading to a higher bandwidth, a clearer channel.
Yeah, like switching from AM radio to high-definition streaming.
So it's not just about receiving information, but about transmitting a whole different frequency.
Exactly. And that shift in frequency, that's what leads to a whole new level of being, something the sources call the fifth kingdom.
The fifth kingdom, that sounds pretty epic. Is that like where we go when we die?
Not exactly. Hold on, don't picture harps and clouds. It's not a physical place.
Okay, so not heaven.
It's more about a transformation of consciousness, like becoming a master of wisdom, but, still walking around in the everyday world.
I like that, like being an undercover agent for a higher purpose, blending in, but radiating a different energy.
Exactly. But it's not about escaping reality. It's about transforming it.
So how do we get there? What's the path to this fifth kingdom?
It's not a one-time ticket to enlightenment. It's an ongoing process. The sources say it's an active force present right here, right now.
Present here and now. So how do we tune into that force?
By actively seeking the light, aligning with the divine within, striving to create right relationships with ourselves, with each other, and with all of creation.
Sounds beautiful, but also like a pretty tall order. Are there like any pitfalls we should be aware of on this path?
Oh, absolutely. Two big ones, actually. Glamour and illusion.
Glamour and illusion. Okay, that sounds a little more Lord of the Rings than self-help book. What are those?
They might sound fantastical, but trust me, they're very real forces that can trip us up. Let's start with glamour.
Okay, glamour. Like being attracted to shiny things.
Well, it's more than that. It's like a veil that distorts our perception of reality, makes us see things that aren't really there.
So like being blinded by our emotions.
You got it. The sources say it's even more powerful than illusion at this stage of human evolution because most people are like primarily focused on their emotions and desires.
So it's like our emotions are hijacking our ability to see things clearly.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. It's not some outside force doing this to us.
Wait, so it's not like some evil sorcerer casting a spell on us?
Nope. The sources debunk that whole dark forces thing. It's often tied to our own human pride and separateness.
You're saying glamour is an inside job.
It often is. We create it ourselves.
So how do we break free from this self-created glamour?
The sources emphasize aligning with the soul. It's like shining a light into the dark corners of our mind, revealing the truth hidden beneath all the emotional clutter.
So basically, more self-awareness.
Yeah, it all comes back to that.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But what about illusion? How is that different from glamour?
Well, while glamour works through our emotions, illusion tricks us through our intellect. It's the mind's way of misinterpreting reality.
So like thinking we have it all figured out when we're really just seeing a tiny piece of the puzzle.
Bingo. And you know what? The sources actually list 7 ways illusion manifests. It's like we're trying to navigate a maze with a map that's totally wrong.
Okay, that's a little scary. So how do we make sure we're not getting lost in this maze of illusion?
Well, the sources are big on mental training. Things like Raja Yoga, which is a way to sharpen your mind and develop clearer thinking. They also say it's important to cultivate a more cautious spirit and not get too carried away with our own thoughts.
So don't get too cocky, stay humble, and question everything.
Yeah, pretty much. And remember, the real goal is to center our lives in the soul, not the personality.
Okay, all good advice. But with all this talk about energies and choices and avoiding illusions, I'm wondering, where does free will fit into all this? Do we even have a say in what happens to us?
Ah, free will. That's where things get even more interesting. Free will. It's a tricky one, especially in the world of esotericism.
Okay, hit me with the esoteric take on free will.
Well, imagine you're at a buffet, right?
Okay, I like buffets.
You can choose what you want to eat, but you're limited to what they're serving that day. You can't just conjure up a pizza if they only have tacos, right?
You're free to choose, but within the limits of what's available.
Exactly. And that's kind of how free will works in esotericism. We have choices, but they exist within certain parameters. And that's where karma comes in.
Ah, karma. So are we talking like cosmic punishment and reward here?
Not quite. It's more about cause and effect playing out on a soul level.
So like every choice we make is creating ripples that shape our future.
You got it. It's almost like we're weaving our own destiny thread by thread with each choice we make.
But isn't that kind of a contradiction? If our choices are shaping our future, where's the freedom in that?
Think of it like learning a musical instrument. You have the freedom to play any note you want, but if you want to make music that sounds good, you got to follow certain rules, right?
See, like scales and chords and things like that.
Exactly. There's a structure, but within that structure, you can create something beautiful.
Okay, so we're not just puppets on strings, we're musicians. But speaking of structure, what about this spiritual hierarchy we keep hearing about? Who are these beings and what are they up to?
Now we're getting into the really mysterious stuff. Imagine these, like, super evolved beings living right here on Earth.
Wait, like walking among us?
Well, they exist in both physical and etheric bodies, working behind the scenes to guide humanity's evolution.
So they're like our cosmic mentors, helping us reach our full potential.
Something like that. And they apparently operate from a central location, Shambhala?
Shamala, like the lost city in the Himalayas?
Yep, that's the one. The sources say it's a real place in the Gobi Desert, but existing in etheric matter.
Etheric matter, so like we can't just book a flight there?
Not exactly. It vibrates at a frequency that's beyond our physical senses. Think of it like a spiritual powerhouse, radiating energy and guidance to the entire planet.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So this hierarchy is sending out good vibes from Shambhala, helping us evolve. But if they're so powerful, why not just, show up and fix everything?
That's a good question, and the sources actually address that. They say there's a process called the externalization of the hierarchy happening.
The externalization, what's that?
It basically means they're becoming more involved in human affairs.
So they are kind of coming out of hiding.
It's more like a gradual shift in the energetic fabric of reality. Think of it like their energies and influence becoming more palpable in the world.
Okay, so they're turning up the volume, but not quite ready for a full-blown concert. But why so subtle? Why not just go all in and create a utopia already?
Well, remember free will. The hierarchy can guide and inspire, but they can't force us to change. It's about nudging us in the right direction.
Got it. Respect for free will. But with all this talk about the hierarchy and their guidance, is there a danger in becoming too reliant on them? Shouldn't we be developing our own, inner compass?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, the sources warn about misinterpreting guidance. It's a real pitfall on the spiritual path. The point isn't to rely on some external master, it's about connecting with your own soul.
Okay, so less about getting instructions from on high and more about tapping into our own inner wisdom. But how do we know the difference between our soul's guidance and, our ego just messing with us?
That's where discernment comes in. It's about learning to tune into that deeper wisdom, the part of us that's connected to something larger than ourselves.
But what if we think we're getting guidance, but it's really just like wishful thinking?
That can definitely happen. The sources mention a few common pitfalls, like putting too much stock in what others say, or letting our own desires cloud our judgment, or even carrying over old, outdated spiritual tendencies from past lives.
So it's like we need to be really careful about who and what we're giving our power to. Makes sense. But with all this talk about guidance and intuition, I'm curious about the role of ideas. And
Yeah.
are we just sponges soaking up whatever thoughts come our way, or do we have a say in shaping our own mental landscape?
That's a fascinating question. The sources actually suggest that humanity isn't really a free agent when it comes to ideas.
Wait, so we're not coming up with these ideas ourselves?
It's more like they're emanating from a higher source, impacting the collective mind like seeds scattered by the wind.
So ideas are kind of floating around in the ether, and we just pick them up.
That's one way to look at it. But here's where free will comes in again. Once an idea takes root in our minds, we have the power to choose whether we nurture it or reject it.
So it's less about generating ideas and more about curating them.
Exactly. We can cultivate the soil of our minds, nurturing the seeds of wisdom and weeding out the ones that no longer serve us.
I like that analogy. But speaking of growth and evolution, what about this concept of initiation? What exactly does it mean to be initiated in an esoteric sense?
Initiation is one of the most mysterious and often misunderstood parts of esotericism. It's often portrayed as this big, secret ceremony, but the sources emphasize it's actually an inner process.
So less about what happens externally and more about what's shifting internally.
Exactly. They describe it as a series of expansions of consciousness that mark specific points in our soul's evolution.
It's like we're leveling up in a video game, but on a spiritual scale.
That's a great way to put it. And each initiation unlocks new abilities and expands our awareness. But it's not for the faint of heart. It's a demanding path that requires a lot of courage and commitment.
No pain, no gain, right?
Something like that. And here's another interesting point. The sources talk a lot about group initiation. They say true spiritual progress isn't just an individual pursuit, it's a collective journey.
So we're not just on our own little solo missions. It's more like we're part of a spiritual team.
That's the idea. As we progress, we're drawn into closer relationship with other souls who are on a similar wavelength. We become part of a soul group, supporting each other's growth and evolution.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together. The energies, the choices, the guidance, the initiations. It's like we're all part of this grand cosmic dance, evolving together towards a higher state of being. But what about intuition? Where does that fit in?
Intuition is a powerful tool on this journey. It's that inner knowing, that gut feeling that guides us towards truth and right action.
But isn't intuition just a fancy word for a hunch?
Well, the sources say it's more than that. They describe it as a function of the higher mind, giving us a direct perception of reality that's free from the distortions of illusion.
So like a direct line to the soul's wisdom.
Exactly. It's like having access to a higher bandwidth of information, a clearer channel.
Okay, but if intuition comes from the higher mind, does that mean we all have it? Or is it something we have to develop?
We all have the potential for intuition, but like any muscle, it needs to be exercised. Practices like meditation and spending time in nature can help us tune in to those subtle whispers of intuition.
So it's about creating space for those insights to emerge. But with all this talk about higher consciousness and spiritual development, I'm curious, where does joy fit into all this?
That's a beautiful question, and the sources make a clear distinction between fleeting happiness, which depends on external things, and true joy, which comes from within.
So it's not about chasing pleasure or avoiding pain, but about cultivating an inner state of peace and contentment that's independent of what's happening around us.
Exactly. True joy is a soul reaction, a resonance with our true nature as divine beings. It's not something we have to earn. It's already there, waiting to be uncovered.
So it's like we're peeling away layers of conditioning and limiting beliefs that are blocking us from experiencing that joy.
Beautifully put. And the sources suggest that as we progress on the spiritual path, we naturally start to experience that joy more and more often.
It's like the sun breaking through the clouds, illuminating our lives with warmth and radiance.
Exactly. And speaking of transitions, what about the ultimate transition, death? What does esotericism have to say about that?
Ooh, good question. I've always been curious about that. Do we just cease to exist when we die, or is there something more?
One of the things that makes esotericism so fascinating is its view on death. It doesn't see it as an ending, but as a transition, a shifting of consciousness from one state of being to another.
So like graduating from one school to the next, or shedding an old skin and growing a new one.
Exactly. The energy that animates our physical bodies doesn't just disappear, it's reabsorbed into the larger pool of cosmic energy, like a drop of water returning to the ocean.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about our individual consciousness? Does that dissolve too, or does some part of us continue on?
The sources suggest that our individual consciousness, the essence of who we are, carries on. It retains the experiences and lessons learned during our time on Earth.
So death isn't an annihilation, it's a transformation.
Precisely. It's a continuation of the journey, but in a different form.
Okay, but what about the afterlife? Do we go to heaven or hell? Or do we face some kind of judgment?
The sources don't really go into those specifics. They focus more on the process of post-mortem existence, describing it as a journey through various subtle realms or planes of consciousness.
So it's like we're peeling away layers, like an onion, revealing the true essence at our core.
I like that image. And during this process, we undergo a life review, reliving our past experiences and extracting the wisdom from them.
So it's not about punishment or reward, but about self-reflection and understanding.
Exactly. It's like a cosmic debriefing, a chance to integrate the lessons we've learned and prepare for our next stage of evolution.
That actually sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But if death is just a transition, not an ending, does that change how we should be living our lives now?
Absolutely. The sources say understanding death in this way can be incredibly liberating. It can free us from the fear of the unknown and allow us to focus on living fully in the present moment.
It's like realizing that this life is a precious gift, not something to be wasted. And knowing that death isn't the end can inspire us to make choices that align with our soul's purpose.
Exactly. It's about living with intention, contributing to something larger than ourselves, and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
It's about seeing this life as a stepping stone on a much grander journey.
Precisely. And that brings us to another important concept, healing.
Healing, how does that fit into the esoteric picture?
Esotericism sees healing as a holistic process. It's not just about addressing physical symptoms, it's about restoring balance and harmony to our entire being, body, mind, and spirit.
So it's not just about taking a pill or going to therapy, but about getting to the root cause of what's causing disease.
Exactly. The sources say that true healing involves understanding the interplay of energies within our bodies and learning how to restore balance.
So we're not just treating symptoms, we're becoming our own energy healers.
That's a great way to put it.
But with all the different healing modalities out there, how do we know which ones are aligned with this esoteric perspective?
The sources encourage us to be discerning, to look for approaches that address the whole person and empower us to take an active role in our own healing process.
So not just blindly following someone else's instructions, but developing our own inner healer.
Exactly. It's about learning to listen to your body and make choices that support your well-being.
But what about those times when healing doesn't seem possible? What about chronic illness or situations where we're facing physical limitations?
That's a really important question, and the sources approach it with a lot of compassion. They suggest that sometimes illness and suffering can be catalysts for growth and transformation.
So even in the midst of pain and difficulty, there's a potential for growth and evolution.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective from seeing illness as a punishment or a failure to recognizing it as a potential teacher.
So it's about finding meaning and purpose even in those difficult experiences.
Absolutely. It's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience, the highs and the lows, the light and the shadow.
And finding the hidden gifts within each experience.
Precisely. And that brings us to another important aspect of the human experience, aging.
Aging. Now that's a topic I'm definitely interested in. Our culture seems to have this obsession with youthfulness, but I'm sensing there's a different perspective here. What do the sources say about growing older?
The sources suggest that aging isn't just about physical decline, it's an opportunity for spiritual maturation and deepening wisdom.
So it's not about desperately clinging to youth, but about embracing each stage of life.
Exactly. The sources encourage us to view aging as a process of refinement, a journey towards greater simplicity and inner
Well, I
peace.
love that perspective. It's not about becoming less, but about becoming more.
More aligned with our souls, more compassionate, more wise.
More at peace with ourselves and the world around us. It's like we're shedding those layers that no longer serve us, revealing the true essence within.
That's a beautiful image. And it brings us to one of the most profound and perhaps challenging aspects of esotericism, detachment.
Detachment, that's one I've always struggled with. It sounds a little cold and impersonal. What does it really mean in the context of esotericism?
It's often misunderstood. Detachment isn't about suppressing our emotions or withdrawing from the world. It's about cultivating a sense of inner freedom.
Freedom from what?
Freedom from attachment to outcomes. It's about recognizing that we don't have control over everything and learning to trust in the wisdom of the divine plan.
So it's not about becoming indifferent, but about engaging with life fully while recognizing that we don't have to cling to things.
Exactly. The sources say detachment arises from a deep understanding of the impermanent nature of all things.
It's like learning to dance with the flow of life, riding the waves of change without getting swept away. But how do we cultivate that kind of detachment? It sounds pretty challenging.
It definitely takes practice. Meditation, self-reflection, and mindfulness can all help us become more aware of our attachments and cultivate a sense of inner spaciousness.
So creating some distance between ourselves and our thoughts and emotions so that we can observe them without getting caught up in them.
You got it. And as we develop this capacity for detachment, we start to experience a greater sense of inner peace and freedom, regardless of external circumstances.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about relationships? Does detachment apply there too?
Absolutely. In fact, the sources say that true love isn't about possession or dependence. It's about recognizing the inherent freedom and divinity of each individual soul.
So it's about loving others unconditionally without trying to control them.
Exactly. Detachment in relationships allows us to love with greater clarity and compassion. It's about recognizing that each person is on their own unique journey and has their own lessons to learn.
So, supporting each other's growth and evolution without clinging or codependency, it's about celebrating each other's uniqueness and allowing each other to blossom.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
This makes me think about how much our culture romanticizes romantic love, often confusing it with attachment and the need to complete ourselves through another person.
It's a common misconception. Esotericism offers a much more expansive view of love, a love that transcends the limitations of the ego and embraces the interconnectedness of all beings.
It's a love that celebrates the journey, embraces the challenges, and supports each other's growth.
And this understanding of love also applies to parenting.
Parenting. In what way?
The sources suggest that true parenting isn't about molding children into what we want them to be. It's about nurturing their souls and supporting their unique paths.
It's about recognizing that our children aren't our possessions. They're souls entrusted to our care.
Exactly. Detachment in parenting allows us to love our children unconditionally, celebrating their successes, supporting them through challenges, and letting them become the best versions of themselves.
So it's about guiding them with wisdom and compassion, but ultimately trusting them to write their own stories.
That's the heart of it.
Wow, this whole conversation has been incredibly insightful. It's making me rethink so many things, my relationships, my work, my understanding of death and the afterlife. It's like a whole new way of seeing the world is opening up to me.
It's a journey of ongoing discovery and transformation, and I'm sure you, our listener, are starting to experience those shifts in your own awareness as well.
It's amazing how these esoteric teachings can really challenge our assumptions and expand our perspectives.
It's all about peeling back the layers, revealing the hidden truths that have always been there, just waiting to be discovered.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more topic I'd like to explore. The etheric body.
Ah, yes, the etheric body. A fascinating and often misunderstood aspect of our being.
I've heard it described as a subtle energy field that surrounds and interpenetrates our physical body, but I'm still a bit fuzzy on the details. What exactly is the etheric body, and what's its role in our overall energy system?
great question. The sources describe it as a web of energy channels, often called nadis, and energy centers known as chakras that regulate the flow of vital life force throughout our physical bodies.
So, like the energetic blueprint or infrastructure that underlies our physical form.
That's a good way to think about it. The etheric body is responsible for maintaining our physical health and vitality, and it also acts as a bridge between the physical and subtle realms.
Okay, that's where it gets really interesting. What do the sources say about the etheric body's connection to those subtle realms?
They explain that it acts as a receiver and transmitter of subtle energies. It's through the etheric body that we experience emotions, thoughts, and intuitions. It's also the vehicle through which we can access higher states of consciousness.
So it's like our energetic antenna, picking up signals from both the physical and non-physical realms.
Exactly. And the sources emphasize that the etheric body is especially sensitive to the quality of our thoughts and emotions.
So if we're constantly bombarded with negative thoughts and emotions, it's going to have a negative impact on our etheric body and ultimately our physical health as well.
Precisely. Negative thoughts and emotions create blockages in the etheric body, which can lead to all sorts of problems, both physical and emotional.
So maintaining a positive attitude isn't just about feeling good, it's also about maintaining a healthy energy system.
Exactly. And the flip side is also true. Positive thoughts and emotions can strengthen and revitalize the etheric body.
So practices like meditation and gratitude can actually have a tangible impact on our energy system and ultimately our physical health.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond our individual energy systems, too. The sources say that our etheric bodies are constantly interacting with the etheric bodies of others.
Wait, really? So we're not just influencing each other through our words and actions, but also through our energy fields.
Exactly. And that explains why we sometimes feel drained or energized after spending time with certain people. It's all about the energetic dynamics at play.
That makes so much sense. It's like we're all swimming in this sea of subtle energies, constantly absorbing and transmitting those energies through our etheric bodies.
That's a great way to visualize it. And the sources suggest that we can learn to become more conscious of these energetic interactions.
So we can become more mindful of the energetic impact we're having on others.
Exactly. And we can also learn to protect ourselves from negative energies, creating healthier boundaries.
This is all so fascinating. It's like we've uncovered this whole hidden dimension, a realm of subtle energies that's constantly influencing our lives.
That's the beauty of esotericism. It invites us to explore the hidden dimensions of our being and the unseen forces that shape our world. And understanding the etheric body is a big part of that.
It's making me realize how much I've neglected the energetic dimension of my being, focusing mainly on the physical and mental aspects.
That's a common oversight. But as we've explored today, those subtle energies are anything but insignificant. They're fundamental to our health, well-being, and spiritual evolution.
And as we become more aware of those energies, we can start to make more conscious choices about how we cultivate and direct them.
It's about reclaiming our power as energetic beings. We're not just passive recipients of external forces, we're active participants in creating our reality.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration of esotericism. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts. Any last pieces of wisdom you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, as we've been exploring all these fascinating ideas, it really struck me that if we're all connected through this web of energy,
Right.
and we're constantly influencing each other on subtle levels, it makes you wonder, what responsibility do we have to be more aware of the energies we're putting out into the world?
Whoa, that is a deep question.
Yeah.
Definitely something to ponder as we continue our exploration of all this esoteric wisdom.
It's been an incredible journey diving into these ideas with you.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface, but it's already shifted my perspective in so many ways.
It's like we've uncovered this secret language, this hidden dimension that was always there, right beneath the surface.
And once you start to understand that language, it changes how you see everything.
Exactly. The interconnectedness, the potential for growth and transformation, it's all there, waiting to be discovered.
This whole deep dive into esotericism has been truly inspiring.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a new roadmap for navigating life, one that's based on wisdom and compassion and a deeper understanding of the universe and my place in it.
That's the power of these teachings. They offer a path to awakening, to realizing our true potential as co-creators of a more beautiful and harmonious world.
It's been a privilege to share this journey with you, our listeners. We hope you've gained some valuable insights along the way. And as we conclude this deep dive, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep seeking, keep questioning.
The journey never really ends. There's always more to uncover, more to learn, more to experience.
And most importantly, keep diving deep into the mysteries of existence.
For it's within those mysteries that we discover our true selves and unlock the potential to create a world that reflects the wisdom, beauty, and harmony of the soul.
Until next time, may your journey be filled with light, love, and the transformative power of esoteric wisdom.
And may you always remember that you are a spark of the divine, a radiant being of light.
Keep shining bright.